One, Elon Musk says he may buy MSNBC. What does that mean for Rachel Maddow? What would that mean for Joe Scarborough? What would that mean for Fox? Two, the child trafficking scandal makes its way seen in Times Square of New York City. You got to hear about the movement to make sure that this tragedy, this scandal, is seen. Three, after Matt Gaetz, what are the prospects for Tulsi Gabbard? What are the prospects for Pete Hegseth? Speaking of moving into the future, thinking about 2028, what are the prospects for Kamala Harris? We'll break it down with Kellyanne Conway. It is the Will Kane Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page, always on demand, by subscribing at Apple or on Spotify. Or joining us every Monday through Thursday. You can be part of the militia by subscribing on YouTube. Little button underneath the text description of this live stream for subscribing to the Will Kane Show. I was not nominated to the Secretary of Agriculture. I was not nominated to the Secretary of College Football, nor the Secretary of Squirrel Hunting. That's not why I was off of Fox and Friends weekend. But instead, I was squirrel hunting this weekend in East Texas. Record year there at Toledo Bend. Group of 15, 16 guys, all somewhat loosely related, harvested 3 squirrels. Now, I have come to know many of you out there in the audience. I've come to realize that many of you don't like the idea of something dying, no matter how natural. But it's just part of the case. And after Peanut the Squirrel, I understand the sensitivities, fellas, in New York. I understand the sensitivities around squirrels. Whenever I've posted, for example, about my sweet dog Violet chasing squirrels around Dallas, I'm a little bit taken aback. I'm a little shocked by the response from the audience. But, I mean, dogs are supposed to chase squirrels and dudes are supposed to hunt. And hunt we did this weekend in East Texas. For the 4th annual Squirrel Hunt and Catfish Rodeo, record year when it came to the tree rats. 3 squirrels harvested, fried, and eaten, fellas.
Doesn't seem like a
3
lot.
now harvested by the Willisha. You know, Dan, it's a record year getting 3 squirrel.
If you
We've only ever gotten 1.
If you set anyone out in Central Park and cleared it out and for one day made the use of a shotgun there legal, I feel like we could get like 10.
It's true.
You see them everywhere.
That's what one would think, not just in Central Park, James. One would think that would be the case in Dallas, Texas, or any other urban environment. They're running along my fence line. They're driving my dog bananas on walks across Dallas. She's very active in chasing squirrels. But once you get out in nature and into woods, it's odd. It's shocking. Where are the squirrels?
Maybe we should ship some Springfield, Ohio.
Some from Dallas?
Yeah, to Dallas.
You got 3 more than the New York Department of whatever.
Well, we talked about killing them in the city, freezing them, taking them out to the woods, and winning the competition, because it is a competition. Here are your winners, Chase and David. They brought in 3 together. David's our big winner. He brought in 3 squirrels. Now, I was proud because what this is about in the end is about, if we're being real, it's about fatherhood, fellowship, college football, campfires, and nature. And I was proud. Here's my son Charlie just dove right in, man. He dove right into cleaning a squirrel. And, you know, based upon our past, no one's a real big expert at field dressing a squirrel. But, I mean, it's a little bit like going back to biology class. And he did a great job.
Wow.
We took these squirrels. It's an impressive work, man. And we took the squirrels. I mean, that is a skinned and cleaned squirrel, and they made their way to the fryer, as you can see. Now, what do you take away from that squirrel there?
That is rough.
I'm not eating that.
Is that fried?
It looks horrible.
Yeah, of course it's fried. This is hindquarters of a squirrel. You can see the 2 thighs and legs,
Yeah.
and then right there in the middle, right there between his legs.
So is that RFK approved?
It's not the most. What I'm not sharing you with the most endowed squirrel you've ever seen in your life. That's a tail. This one had a little tail come along with
proportions.
it. The catfish part of the rodeo, not quite as bountiful this year, but we did have enough. I mean, we brought in 11 to 15 catfish, and run them off a trot line, skin them, fry them up as well. That's really good, by the way. The squirrel, we all ate a little bit of squirrel, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it's gamey chicken. That's what it is. It's a little darker meat than chicken. But that's what everybody says. They compare everything to chicken.
A lot of people in the chat were wondering.
It's a little darker meat than chicken. What it tastes like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid of squirrel, and if that were the only thing that were available, you'd be all right. I mean, even taste-wise, I could give you guys squirrel, but if you have options, you guys are not going to be excited about squirrel. But now catfish is a delicacy.
Mm-hmm.
These bottom feeders make for good eating. Have you guys had catfish, fried catfish? Surely. Patrick lives in Florida.
I
You've had
believe
fried
I have.
catfish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a staple. It's really, really
Dude,
good.
what is that picture? Come on now.
No forks and knives.
It's tail, I think.
I told
That's the inside.
I told my wife not to watch this episode because I told her you're going squirrel hunting. She's a vegetarian. Not so happy about it.
Yeah. Well, here's how it goes down. Friday night at the squirrel hunt, it's a bunch of campfire, steaks on the grill,
There we go.
And this is this is what it's all about, man. I mean, this is you like my son's sweatshirt?
Let's go.
This is
He's all in. He's all in.
never surrendered Trump sweatshirt. It's fellowship, man. We took my youngest son. He made it. You have to be 13 to go. And, we convinced him his initiation was he had to be branded by the campfire on Friday night. So we got his arms pinned back. And he thought that there was going to be a coat hanger brand, but there was not. It was just some camo paint applied to his face. We caught a raccoon. We named him Fred in honor of the late, great Fred in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. Raccoons are pretty cute. But, yeah, man, it's sitting around, it's riding four-wheelers off into the lake. It's those four-wheelers, by the way, can go – they're awesome. They're incredible. They can go deep. You can ride deep out into Toledo Bend, which is a pretty shallow lake. It's me spending time with my boys. It's nature. It is hunting. It's fellowship. It's prayer before meal, and it's college football on Saturday. It is – there's just something about that men need to be a part of. Have you guys, any of you guys hunt at all? Have you been hunting?
I have not.
Shot skeet.
A lot of friends of mine do, but I have not.
That's it.
Whitetail in Connecticut.
Tinfoil?
No.
Well, there's something. By the way, we shot trap. We shot skeet. There's just something about this is what I really encourage you. It's the combination of a couple of things, like you and nature together. First of all, you, quiet in nature. Whether or not that's you sitting in a duck blind, listening, whether or not that's you walking through the woods, looking in the treetops, paying attention to what's moving, whether or not that's you sitting in a deer stand even, and just quiet, listening to the woods. It is you and nature. That's a possum. We also caught a possum.
Ugh,
nasty animals,
nasty.
by the way.
Ugh.
If during apocalypse, ranking what you're going to eat, squirrel, catfish 1, squirrel 2, raccoon 3, possum if we're starving. We did not eat that possum that we caught.
Gross.
But first of all, you and nature. And then secondarily, you with your buddies. Fellowship. I mean, it's really something. That, man's been sitting around a campfire for eternity, looking at the flames lick up with nothing to do or say, and it's mesmerizing, and there's a reason. And you don't need a TV, and your phone doesn't come out of your pocket except to change the music on the station if you're playing music. And, of course, we are playing, guess the greatest country and Western song. And then just, family and doing something together that forces a togetherness. It's absolutely awesome. in the end, it isn't about the squirrels. It's about me and my boys and my friends all out there in the woods and in nature. And I would highly encourage you guys
Spiritual.
to find whatever it is. Yeah, man, it is spiritual. We had a trap shooting contest. We ranged from very good to horrific out there. But my son West, I don't think he's ever hit a target. His very first shot, we played knockout. Do you guys know what knockout is? If you've ever shot trap or skeet. Knockout's where you get in a line, you shoot, one is released, and you have to shoot in order. And if the guy before you misses and you hit it, he's out of the game. It's like in basketball. Mm-hmm. Same as basketball knockout, you know. Well, my son West had I'd say the best shooter in front of him. And he hit it, the best shooter, but he left a big chip. So if you can knock the chip, then you knock him out. And West, first shot, blew up the remnants, blew up the chip, knocked out the best shooter. I think it's the only one he hit all day, and it was pure dumb luck. But he dusted the remnants. So incredible year for the 2024 Squirrel Hunt and Catfish Rodeo. It's been a big weekend, and we want to get you to the news. We got several big stories to hit you with as we come back with quick hits across the news. Story number 1. All right, here we go. It's quick hits from the weekend. We're going to let Don Tinfoil Pat take us away. Hit him with some music, two-a-days, and hit us with the stories tinfoil. Keep it peppy.
Will, I'm going to give you the story that everyone wants to hear. The people in the comments want this story, and that story is Elon Musk. Will he buy MSNBC? He and Joe Rogan were on X this weekend, and Elon Musk said the most entertaining outcome, especially if ironic, is most likely in response to him potentially buying MSNBC. And Joe Rogan followed that up by saying, if you buy MSNBC, I would like Rachel Maddow's job. I'll wear the same outfit and glasses. I'll tell the same lies. What do you have to say about Elon and maybe Evening Joe?
Evening Joe. That's Joe Rogan's Evening Joe on MSNBC. All right, well, first of all, let's acknowledge Comcast has said they're going to spin off MSNBC. I'm sure there are business reasons for Comcast looking to spin off MSNBC, all of which are probably above my head. But I've heard it guessed about the different types of things that can do for the stock and spinning away, not just MSNBC, but Oxygen, Sci-Fi Channel, CNBC, and MSNBC. Bill O'Reilly is out there. He has theorized that the reason that Comcast would want to spin off MSNBC is that it's depressing the stock and the capabilities of NBC, their reputation, that it's full of hateful rhetoric. It's hurting NBC. Now, I think NBC is responsible for a lot of its own loss of credibility. But there's a difference between just being, I don't know, agenda-based and maybe even propaganda-based versus pure, utter insanity, spewed on MSNBC. Rachel Maddow, did you guys read? She's going to take a $5 million pay cut. She makes $30 million a year.
Wow.
To do a once-a-week show.
Wow.
Just on Monday. And then she comes and she joins the it's a really good gig. Where do you get that gig?
It's like Howard Stern now.
It's better than Howard Stern because how many days a week does Howard Stern do? 2 days?
I don't know. I think he does like 4 shows a month. Maybe 3. I don't know.
Really? Is he down to that few?
I think he's down to that few. They replay a lot of stuff on Howard Stern.
When I used to listen to Howard Stern, and he was 4 days, and then I felt like he started doing 3 days a week. I didn't realize he'd reduced it even further.
I think it's down further, yeah.
And what is he making over at Sirius? Is he like $100 million a year? Yeah, look up what Howard Stern makes. I mean, Rogan's like at $50 million, but he does 5 shows a week, right? What do you got on Howard Stern?
$130 million annual salary.
Wow.
Annual salary for Howard Stern.
$130 million.
Okay, well,
You're paying for that archive, is what you're doing.
Yes. Good point.
Yeah, you are paying for that archive. Also, look, I think Howard is a little old lady who's insane and afraid of her shadow, but that wasn't who he always was. And he became pretty much the reason for a Sirius subscription, if you're being real. And I've had Sirius subscriptions. Free when you buy a new car sometimes or something like that. You get it for 90 days or whatever it may be. The only time I paid for Sirius was the feeling of necessity that I needed to have. Well, I wanted ESPN National Radio because I was on ESPN National Radio, but because I wanted to listen to Howard Stern. And so he's the flagship. He's the main reason for a subscription on Sirius. In the same way, if you're being real, Rachel Maddow is she is that for MSNBC. Like, her doing debate night coverage or election night coverage is super important to them. I would guess probably Scarborough is second, right? And then it doesn't matter. Like, Joy Reid is not the face of your network. Chris Hayes is not the face of your network. Can you imagine if Maddow left, maybe Scarborough? Like, they literally have no face of the network whatsoever. Now, you could argue the ratings are so bad, what's the point anyway? You know, it's like, but that's like the Cowboys getting rid of the star on their helmet. That's what Rachel Maddow is to MSNBC. Now, Elon, look, let's be real. When this started at Twitter, it was a guy on Twitter who said, hey, why don't you buy Twitter? And he said, how much is it? You know, and that sort of,
wow,
that sort of let it off. And then he ends up buying Twitter, and he goes in and he absolutely cleans house. So I don't think that any of us, including the talent in MSNBC, should presume this is a ridiculous concept. I don't think he's interested in yesterday's technology and yesterday's media, even if it's a melting iceberg, meaning it can still bleed off and be profitable. It is profitable, by the way. MSNBC is profitable. So even if it makes money and he wants to, and Joe Rogan, by the way, doesn't want to do a nightly MSNBC show. So I don't think in the end, even though it easily could happen, I don't think any of them really want for that to happen. What's up to it, Ace?
What would he rename it? People are wondering in the chat. XNBC?
MSN.
Absolute, just X.
Just X?
He'd name it X.
Yeah,
There's no doubt.
The X channel.
The X channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves the letter X.
Probably loop it in. It goes back to some.
I don't
book
even
you
think
read
it's
as a kid.
co-branding.
XNN, someone said.
I just think remember the he wanted to develop an app before he bought X, and they're saying this is over the long term what he wants to do with X. Although I don't see we've done this. Is it becomes the everything app? That's what he wants. He wants the everything app where you do your banking, your media, your social networking, everything in one spot. And before he bought it, that's what he was calling X. That's like he loves that branding. He loves that to be. So he'd call him MSNBC X.
They just added
without a doubt.
They just added a feature where the money that you get for X payments, you can now send to other accounts, and they basically want to have it so in the long term you could basically have your bank account and like your Zelle or Venmo system on X. And there's you see it in screen time too. Like I think average X usership in the past year is like up like 60-70%. And I think that's a low ballpark.
He's got it.
It's
I
becoming
hope
an everything
that
app.
into the everything app.
It's in the early
I mean, I
stages.
hope
I'm
it
seeing
does become that.
All right. So we got some great
apps. Real quick,
Okay.
Patrick. Apps are like TV shows. I've got so many that I can't. I'm saturated. I can't adopt new apps very well. I was telling you guys, I'm going to do this later in the week. I've got so many TV shows that I've started that when people tell me there's a new one, like everybody's telling me I need to watch Landman. Well, I've got The Penguin going, and I've lost track of where I am in it. And I've forgotten other shows that I'm in on. I literally can't remember. I need to take inventory of shows that I've started and I didn't dislike. I didn't walk away from them because I disliked them. I walked away from them because I'm saturated. I forget that there's a show. And that's the way it is with apps. So, like, what's the app everybody was talking about? Oh, everybody, you guys need to get on this ChatGPT app because my brother's on it. It was shocking what he was doing around the campfire. It's shocking. Great. He came up with the logo for the Willisha in 15 seconds. That was pretty awesome. You know, and we got a graphics department who's great at Fox, but that would take 2 months. That would take 2 months.
We would never say that. We would never say that.
To run through approvals. I mean, there's a lot of voices, you know, a lot of opinions. But I mean, literally it's 20 seconds, that Chat GPT. All right, Patrick, tinfoil, take it away. What else you got?
We got some more great stuff here. Now, The View, our favorite co-host, Sunny Hostin. Now, she was on PBS. This is probably an older clip, but she found out about her ancestry. We're going to play the clip now. Take it away, tinfoil. Or that's me.
Take
it away, two-a-days.
Wow.
What's wrong with you?
I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information.
So you think this clip, okay, so she finds out, shocking, ancestors that were slave owners. It's just not shocking to anybody. Like, you think that's shocking to her? Like, you have to understand. You go back, if you're mixed race at all, you're going to get there. Like, you're going to get there. By the way, even if you're not mixed race, like, you're going to get back to some point where one tribe enslaved another tribe at some point in your history. What is there a genealogy of angels that people think they're appreciative, they're a part of, or solely victimhood? Like, I'm only a victimhood, deep roots, victimhood from the beginning, oppressed from the beginning. Is that Patrick? You think she's what'd you say? She's a bad poker player? It's all over her face that how she's feeling.
Yeah, you can see it with the legal reads that she has to do. You can see it here. It's just like, oh, that's great. It's just what I need.
It's all in the eyes. It's all in the eyes. I told you guys before, like, I knew Sunny a little bit back at CNN, and she was really nice. Like, behind the scenes, very friendly. She's a lawyer. And, she was kind of like, I don't want to say milquetoast, but down the middle on her commentary. And there's something that happened at The View. Here's what I think. She just got fame, and she saw it. And it's like a tweet. Oh, that went viral? Do more of that. Mm-hmm. She just saw the incentive and leaned real hard into it. And she's way out over her skis of authenticity. She's way out over. You know what I mean? She's not being authentic, so she has to keep leaning into this brand over and over and over. All right, one more. What do you have, tinfoil?
Really fast. Really quick takes. Glenn Jacobs, of friend of the show, he is trying to talk The Rock out of joining politics. He says that it is very divisive right now. It is not something you want to get into, and that Dwayne should think twice before joining. What do you say?
Well, we interviewed both of these gentlemen. We've had Glenn Jacobs, a.k.a. Kane from WWE, now the mayor of Knoxville, on the show. He's a friend of the Will Kane Show. And I think it's fair to say that Dwayne Johnson is a friend of the Will Kane Show. He's been on twice. He's broke news here on the Will Kane Show on several occasions about his interest in running for president or whether or not he would endorse Joe Biden. I actually think Glenn Jacobs is right. Like, I don't think The Rock will run for president. I don't see the upside of it for him. He's not at 100% approval rating, but he's well over the edge of, like, majority approval rating. Why go this way? I don't know if he could win either. I don't put anything past, like, a celebrity pop star being able to win in the future, but I don't know how you do that.
You kind of need to have a killer instinct.
Can't do it.
I feel like he's
too nice.
He's too nice.
He wants to be liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does have a killer
He's
instinct.
got a good heart.
You didn't see him?
It's hard to say The Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say, right. It's hard not to say he has a killer instinct, right? All right, yeah, I would do the same as Kane. I would tell The Rock, stay away from politics. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to one of the producers of City of Dreams about the child trafficking scandal, because they're about to unleash an awareness campaign right into the heart of Times Square, New York. Plus, coming up, Kellyanne Conway on the cabinet picks for Donald Trump. Coming up on The Will Kane Show. How much trouble will Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth have being confirmed into the cabinet of Donald Trump? It is the Will Kane Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe at Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. And we'll welcome you into the Will Kane Show every Monday through Thursday live at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. John Devaney is the producer of the film City of Dreams. He's the founder of Manor House Films. This weekend, John and several others are going to bring awareness to the human trafficking, child trafficking scandal when they unleash the Can You See Me campaign in New York City. John, great. Thanks for being here on the Will Kane Show. Tell me about this what's going to happen this weekend or this week in Times Square.
Yeah, exactly. Great to be here with you. Yeah, exactly. We City of Dreams is a very, very touching and moving film about a young boy who is trafficked across the Mexican border, held into a sweatshop. This is all based on a true story in LA, and it's about the courage that this young boy had to fight for his freedom and for the freedom of others. Just as an aside, I'm a new filmmaker. I've invested about $35 million in 2 films. I'm a financier, and I own a broker-dealer called United Capital Markets. We've traded about $75 billion of RMBS, CMBS, and ABS bonds, all the stuff that kind of blew up the world in the financial crisis. I'm a very, very blessed man, and I've had a wonderful life. And now I've turned some of my sights on raising awareness on topics like this that, well, they need business leaders and people to focus on them. This is just awful. It's awful that child trafficking possibly could have increased in the United States of America by 400% higher. It pains me to think that this could have unraveled over about 6 years. And it is true what you've heard, that much of this is from very flawed policies at our border and has to do with some of the immigration. There were many unaccompanied minor children that came to our border in Suburbans. Traffickers ran ads in poor countries. They charged $3,000 a head. They'd bring 12 of the kids to the border, and they would give the kids names, numbers, and the government didn't realize that the names and numbers were other bad guys on the other side. And as crazy as this is, lots of whistleblowers have now uncovered this and reported it. There's been hundreds of thousands of kids that were given to bad guys, and now they're in labor trafficking, sex trafficking, and and I said, hey, like, somebody's got to help with this issue. And so I put my voice and some of my resources behind this film. We've partnered with A21. They likely are the #1 anti-trafficking organization in the world. They've got amazing partners. They've got all these media partners that recently donated free space that's worth millions of dollars in Times Square. There's many of us out there. There's big media partners and people that are all coming together to try to put a stop to the increase and figure out how to save these kids. So our movie,
so what's this?
Out on Amazon now.
What's this going to be? In Times Square, John, this Can You See Me campaign. We know about City of Dreams, by the way. We've had Tony Robbins on the show to talk about the movie. But this latest update, this Can You See Me in Times Square, what's this going to be?
Well, they are, Can You See Me is a very big campaign. A21 won awards for this campaign and how it's raised awareness, prevention. So that they've got Amtrak, they've got the Port Authority, they've got 10 or 15 partners that are donating all this free ad space. So Can You See Me is a campaign that's trying to educate the public about the warning signs of kids that are getting trafficked, and it's trying to teach the public basically to call 800 numbers and report this behavior. Because a lot of this stuff, all of us citizens, we can keep our eyes and ears open and detect it and prevent it.
So, by the way, there's a story up this morning at foxnews.com about a 2-year-old showing up at the border with nothing but, I think, a piece of paper on her to suggest her name. No relative or anything accompanied with her. I'm sure she had some adult that brought her across the border, but no seeming familial connection. This 2-year-old being coyoted across the border. My question for you, John, real quick is, so you told us your background about finance and so forth. There's a lot of different causes that you could have cared about. I hear you saying it's here in America. It's increased by 400% in the past 6 years. We know the policies that led to a lot of this. I'm just curious, like, of all the different things you could get involved in, and there's a lot, there's a lot that's a mess in America, right? That you could on a charitable, and I understand this isn't pure charity, meaning you hope it's an investment as well on these movies to actually do well, because that would be good as well, to have entertainment and commerce and message all brought together. Why this? Why this issue for you in America?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I had already started my film studio company, Manor House, and we had backed another film that deals with addiction to drugs and alcohol, exploitation of women, called The Prince, about power and politics. We have Nicolas Cage and Giancarlo Esposito, J.K. Simmons, my friend Andy Garcia. So, my brother had died of crack cocaine addiction, and I'm sober. And that's another issue out there in our country that certainly needs attention. I mean, this film is going to be a blockbuster. It's very entertaining, but those undercurrents are there for that film. So I'd already been involved in helping to back and produce that film. And then I screened this film, City of Dreams. I screened it. Right. And I mean, honestly, I had tears dripping off my chin at the end of the movie. And I mean, I don't cry in movies, okay? I was so touched when I saw this movie, and it was going to come out in like 50 or 60 screens, like many of these independent films do. And they wanted money, $5 or $6 million to make sure it could be shown across the world. And I didn't even blink. I talked to the director, Mohit Chandani, until about 2 or 3 in the morning. I tossed and turned all night. And the first thing I did in the mornings, I said, you know what, I'm going to support this. I learned all about the issue, and I had to make a quick decision. And my heart told me, hey, you've got to do this and support it. Now I've become an advocate using my voice, and I've been on 17 TV, podcast, radio, to talk about this issue. And frankly, I think it's the right thing to do. At this stage of my life, I've been so blessed, and then to get these other business leaders, my God, Tony Robbins and Vivek Ramaswamy, like, these guys aren't making a penny, and these guys fly around on their planes, and they stand shoulder to shoulder with me at these events, taking time out of their schedule, all to try to help these kids, which honestly is what all of us are trying to do here. We got all these guys that have volunteered to raise awareness on this movie and on this topic. And so it's not just me. There's a wonderful group of folks that are all participating, and that's what we need to do. We got to come together in a community, and politics aside, even though there is some blame at the border, we just need to figure out how to protect our kids. And if there's hundreds of thousands of them that are kidnapped in this country, then it's bullshit, and we got to find them, save them, and prevent this from happening.
Well, we appreciate you being on your 18th TV or podcast interview with us here today, John Devaney on The Will Kane Show. Thank you, John.
All right, great to be here, guys.
Thank you so much. Pay attention to the Can You See Me movement in New York City, the New York metropolitan area this weekend. Go check out City of Dreams. All right, let's get into now story number 3. Kellyanne Conway is a Fox News contributor. She's the presidential campaign manager and counselor formerly to President Donald Trump. She's also a New York Times best-selling author, and she joins us now on The Will Kane Show. Hey, Kellyanne.
Hey, it's great to see you, Will.
Let's talk about Donald Trump's selections and nominees as cabinet. I want to focus in on 2 that are receiving the most seeming pushback right now, and that is Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth. I think we have to have the conversation about those 2 almost joined at the hip, unless you tell me you think this is completely wrong, with the conversation about Matt Gaetz. Tell me, first of all, what you think Matt Gaetz pulling his nomination away because he didn't feel like he had the support from Republican senators might tell us about the prospects for Gabbard and Hegseth.
I think they're 3 totally different people, totally different nominations. What they all had in common was President Trump knowing that he got a mandate to form the cabinet he wants of, I think, as Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk said in the Wall Street Journal op-ed, a lean team of small government warriors. And I think that's important. So every president has his right to do that. This is what the meetings are for. It's what the confirmation hearings are for. And most of the confirmation hearings should, and usually do, not exclusively will, should focus on the job description, which is the Department of Justice needs to go back and become a crime fighting organization, make us safe again. The Pentagon has to get rid of, as I know Pete Hegseth, the nominee, has said many times, get rid of all these ridiculous, unnecessary programs that take us away from the mission of our military, which is to be able to fight and win wars, not be some laboratory for social experimentation and so on. So I think that Pete Hegseth will be answering most of his questions will be answering how he would lead the Pentagon as the next Secretary of Defense. Of course, he's going to be asked the questions he's being asked now that are doing what the media always do, which is think that they're asking the questions not under oath through the media. The second, and this has been raised in private conversations with senators already, many of whom have said privately and publicly they got the answers they wanted. Tulsi Gabbard, the Democrats can't stand when one of their own calls them out and says you're losing touch with our brave men and women in law enforcement, border security, the intelligence communities. Look what happened in Afghanistan. Look at how you've lied to the American people about the border being secure and closed. You lied to them about parents being domestic terrorists through our own attorney general, and so on and so forth. So our partisan confirmation processes have become, our confirmation processes have become so partisan, as have the judicial nomination processes, that's why it's important that President Trump started out with 53 Republican votes. I think, Will, the question is which Democrats can some of these nominees peel off and get to their side? I remember Tim Geithner had been at the Fed, then he was Secretary of Treasury nominee for Barack Obama at the beginning in 2009. And about 6, 7, 8 Republicans voted for Geithner's nomination. I asked one of them, Bob Corker of Tennessee, that's at the time, why would you vote for Tim Geithner? He didn't do a particularly good job at the Fed or in the New York Treasury. And he said, New York Fed, he said, I think every president has the right to assemble the team he needs. And so I would remind everybody of that. And so I don't like it to get caught up on any one nominee, because I think President Trump really has assembled an unbelievable cabinet in formation and senior staff. I've worked with nearly all of them at the most intimate and highest levels of public policy, in some cases of government. You're not going to do better than people like this. And I have to tell you, I can't think of a single one of them who needs this job. They want to do this because they realize that things are so corroded and backward in Washington, D.C. People are working from home. These government buildings are empty. What are you doing working from home when you're an able-bodied 30-something who we pay for taxpayer dollars? And this is why again, I want to just go back to Elon and Vivek for a second, when they say, because this will affect every department and agency, when they say we're going to focus on regulatory rescissions, administrative reductions, and cost savings, we do have people in Washington, 5 people doing the same job, which means it's probably not being done at all. It's certainly not being done well.
Right. Oh, there's no doubt about that. I saw the stat today. The Department of Agriculture, I believe, is at 6% occupancy when it comes to building. That's one of the things that Elon Musk and Vivek have pointed out through Doge already. They're tweeting out inefficiencies. I mean, I'm talking about physical buildings owned by the federal government, allocated to the Department of Agriculture, only 6% occupancy. It's stunning. So I know Vivek has said maybe we just put back a no more work from home, no more work remote. You got to work here, and that will have its own attrition effect on people working for the federal government.
Yes, it will. And also, if you're of an age and a health stage where you can't go back to work every day physically, you'll get that exemption. That's like any other workforce. But this presumption that the two things that still exist from COVID times are the way we vote, with drop boxes and mail in and all that stuff, and the way we work. And by the way, Will Kane, you've been employed many times in your life, as have I, and I've employed many people in my life. The idea that you can't make other choices, who your coworkers are, what your wage is, if you get overtime, what your benefits are, who your boss is, what your assignments are. And the one thing we allow employees and contractors to decide now is where they perform their work. Back up, everybody. It's foolishness. And I think we're hurting the next generation who aren't going to a place of work and getting their butts kicked by a boss once in a while. You were late. You didn't perform in that meeting. You weren't prepared. you drank too much on the business trip, whatever it is. Everybody got their butts kicked by a boss. We need that. We need that. And by the way, you also need a clean iron shirt in your closet for Tuesday morning on Monday night. You'll think thrice before you go out for that second bourbon.
I think it's ironed, Kelly. I don't know if that was a personal shot or
Yours
not.
for sure, not
it's
at all.
Somewhat.
You're a responsible adult.
Kellyanne, I know you said you don't want to talk about any of these necessarily individually because you want to talk about the cabinet as a whole. The point you made about no one needs this job, I can speak to that specifically when it comes to my former co-host, Pete Hegseth, whose star was incredibly bright. I can tell you specifically in line for big positions at Fox News that he steps away from in order to go do a job that he feels very passionately about. But I do want to go back to Pete, and I do want to go back to Tulsi because I appreciate what you said about Democrats. On principle, you would like to see some Democrats who feel the same way that Republicans did that a president deserves his cabinet. But I'm more focused on Republicans right now because there's enough of them that these nominees should get through. So the question is, are there going to be Republicans who, and I know there's been meetings and it sounds like it's all gone well for Pete and senators out there going over some of the stuff that's being aired about his personal life. I'm sure that's still going to make for an ugly committee hearing. And then Tulsi, I've seen Senator James Langford, for example, from Oklahoma, talking about we need to talk more about, I don't know, some of her meetings with Bashar al-Assad and that sort of thing. Do you think you can count on these Republicans?
I think we can count on these Republicans, Will Kane, to say, I'm going to give a fair hearing. I'm going to have meetings with them ahead of time. And then transparency and truthfulness will save the day, where we can all tune into these hearings and watch the questions. Remember, the senators asking the questions are never under oath. The staffers writing the questions are never under oath. It's the nominee that's under oath, and he or she will have to speak truthfully and fully. And here's the other thing I would say. In polling, the American people are giving President-elect Trump the benefit of the doubt with his agenda and his administrative selections for the cabinet so far. So I think the Senate should do the same. The fact that they saw their party reconstructed through this geographic and demographic breadth of a victory is I think the green light they need to say, President Trump has been left for politically dead how many times? Let's give him the grace and the latitude to say, I need the following people around me to get things done. And you see the CBS polling, they're much more happy than not with President Trump's selection so far. Even +9, Tulsi a good choice and a bad choice. +5, Hegseth a good choice and a bad choice. Though a plurality say they haven't heard enough. And look, I also wanted to say something else. The fact is that many people in Washington, D.C. and in the media, they think their job is to harass and embarrass other human beings that disagree with them politically. And they use their poison keyboard and their acerbic tongues to do that. So expect that to happen to Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth and some of these others. Even though they can't stop their confirmation necessarily, they can bloody them up and try to embarrass and harass them. And these people like to create pain. They do. Think their job.
But one more.
That's why the media these days
One
has
more on the Republicans.
31% approval rating because so many Americans. Yeah. So the Republicans, it's a good point that you're raising because at 53,
well, hold on real quick. Let me just add to it real quick. To your point on the transition. So Donald Trump has, I think the transition is like at a 60% approval rating right now. So post-election, are you happy with Donald Trump's transition? It's like at 60%, 59%, 60% approval rating. Donald Trump won, as you mentioned, with a mandate, both electoral college, popular vote, swing states. So it would take a lot. And by the way, then there's just who Donald Trump is and his instincts and his strength and the fact that if you're going to go against him as a Republican senator, you are staking out what looks to be a very unpopular position for you. Elon Musk has said, by the way, if you go against him, get ready for a primary challenge. So that's Elon Musk saying he's going to help out with a primary challenge. But on the other hand, Kellyanne, I'm a little concerned, like all of these senators who were not pro-Donald Trump are now in leadership position. It's Mitch McConnell doing the Rules Committee. It's John Thune as majority leader. Is it Murkowski has a high position as well? I believe it's Murkowski, right? She also got a high position. So it's like the Senate is moved into a direction that doesn't seem to follow the way the public has gone when it comes to Donald Trump.
This is true. But I will say, I think that Senator Murkowski said she wasn't voting for President Trump. You don't need to quote me. We can look it up easily. but she's got an
Mhm.
R after her name, and I hope that she'll be fair to these nominees. She is the only Republican that voted against Justice Brett Kavanaugh. You may recall in 2018, Susan Collins gave an
Right.
impassioned speech in the well of the Senate, one of the best in modern memory, as to why, to your point here, she had concerns, raised objections, was curious, was concerned, but got those questions answered, and here's why she's voting for him. I want to remind everybody, this is the situation we had when we got here in 2017. It's the same thing 8 years later. We had 53 Republican senators, Will, and we had a majority in the House.
Mhm.
In fact, not a slim majority like Johnson has now. We had a pretty good majority, double-digit majority. And yet, did they repeal and replace Obamacare? No. Did they get infrastructure passed? No. Did the Tax Cut and Jobs Act get signed on March 2nd? No. It got signed into law on December 2nd. So even with a majority, it was distorting. I think what's different now is Donald Trump knows how to deal with them. They know how to deal with him. The same people who vote for them vote for him. And I think John Thune's going to be fine. And I don't know what Mitch McConnell's doing. I think they're going to be fine because they see that they're in the majority, not because of them or even some of their Senate candidates, respectfully, but because Donald Trump's enthusiasm, energy, and vote collecting allowed them to have this big sweep across the country in these swing states. Remember, Donald Trump is the only Republican to ever win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin as a block in modern history in the last 35 years, and he did it twice. That's it. The others didn't do it.
Right.
And he did it twice in
Right.
2016 and 2024, and he won. This is not coincidence. This is causation. So no, I think I think the nominees you mentioned could easily lose a Republican here, a Republican there. I don't doubt it. But that's what these hearings are for. Matt Gaetz took his name out of nomination because there were 4 hard, firm no's among the Republicans against him. And he said he didn't want to be a distraction. I think that was great of him to step aside once he did the math, because he wants President Trump and Vice President Vance to succeed. Will, he wants to make sure that the Attorney General is confirmed before, if we can do it on or before Inauguration Day or soon after there, so that we can get moving pretty quickly.
All right, last thing with you, Kellyanne. So my old colleague at ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, was on the Bill Maher's podcast, and he said something about Democrats having a weak bench. And we've had this conversation before, but it's interesting to think about the future. Politico Playbook this morning had something on the future of Kamala Harris. What will she do? On one hand, of course, she just embarrassingly lost. But on the other hand, even in losing, you raise your name ID, She, among Democrats, she's now after Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, probably Joe Biden, in terms of at least name ID. So they theorized about governor of California. Should Gavin Newsom, run for president and so forth? What do you think of the Democrats' bench, which I think we would have to say includes Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, and Kamala Harris?
It includes them. It includes probably Gretchen Whitmer. I find her to be unimpressive, but people seem to like her in the party. Andy Beshear of Kentucky, Wes Moore, the young African-American governor who won by 30 points in Maryland a few years ago. They've got a bunch of people on the bench. They'd love to have Mitch Landrieu do it, but they've made it so that they're spending $2 billion in ad will, and they're saying, well, you got to have a look, not just a record or performance. But it all depends on what happens with President Trump and this dynamic administration. It also depends what these individual Democrats do and say. Are they part of the resistance, which now is all but gone? Totally underfunded, underwhelming, no track record. As I call them, the always wrong, never Trumpers. How embarrassing. The money that's been spent on complete nonsense, and the promise. The reason a lot of these cable stations are bleeding viewers is those viewers were promised we'll never have to deal with Donald Trump again. It wasn't just, let me go and have some ideological, political alignment and agreement. You promised me, you told me you knew how to do this, and you failed. So people are leaving them. I think if some of them give a big foreign policy speech, I think if some of them say, here in my state, I'm resisting the wayward moves of my party. They've lost the worker. They've lost Hispanics. They've lost African Americans. Kamala Harris is a woman who won women by 7 paltry points. That ain't nothing. Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden won them by double that, 13 points. And we beat Hillary in 2016. She still won women by 13 points. Kamala Harris is a Black woman who lost more Black women to Donald Trump than either Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden before her. So they've got a huge reckoning. the question for the Democrats, Will, is not who's your next messenger, but what's your next message? You're bleeding support. You're seen
Yes.
as hostile to school choice. You're hostile to religion. You're hostile to workers. You're hostile to people who don't have 4-year college degrees. Look, the Obama couple may be popular, but the Obama coalition is gone. These counties have gone from Obama, Trump, 206 of them in 2016. Biden won a bunch of them back in 2020. Trump dominated. And the Obamas can come out and wag their finger at people and then run back into their castles. It's not working anymore. It's not working. So the Democrats have an identity problem and a message problem more than a messenger problem.
And because of that, when you say the resistance is dead, I'm not so sure. It might be dead nationally.
Well, I just mean like
I don't know if it's dead.
I
don't know if it's
Gavin
dead among
Newsom or
Democrats.
Chuck Schumer. Hakeem Jeffries smells the majority, coming his way after 2026.
Right.
So I don't mean it that way. I just mean the professional one where MSNBC and CNN's idea of a Republican is somebody who's broken with Trump. And if you worked for Trump and then broke, all the better. And so that's just not what happened in the election. Republican voters now are more Hispanic, more Asian. They are younger. They are more African American. They're more union households. They're more gay and lesbian households. They're more Jewish American than they were 4 short years ago.
Have you ever thought about the MSNBC contributor gig that you could have had, or your position on The View if you'd have broken from Trump, Kellyanne? I mean, you would be.
That's the
I
only
don't know. You probably
criteria.
even if you were, even if you were anti-Trump, there's no way you last on The View.
And let me make clear, after Trump won in 2016, money was pouring in for me, including from these networks. I had offers from all of them. Jeff Zucker from CNN and the people at MSNBC and NBC. The money was flowing. But you know what? They turned on Trump. And of course, I went into the White House and never regretted it. An amazing 4 years by the president's side. They turned on Trump almost immediately. They couldn't get enough of him. And then they turned on all of us. Mm-hmm. And the games began almost immediately. January 5th, the Oval Office meeting with Susan Rice and Clapper and Brennan and Comey and Obama himself. And then the next day, they're all at Trump Tower. Sans, Obama, and Rice. They're all at Trump Tower.
Hey, real quick, Kellyanne, before we go, on that note, I've understood that, I believe it's Tammy Duckworth who said, well, I can't support Tulsi or whoever, even though she's a Democrat, she's saying, until they pass background checks. My understanding is the Trump team has not put their cabinet nominees through background checks with the FBI because in order to do so, you have to sign a letter of memorandum or whatever it is with the current sitting administration to start sharing information. But that was the backdoor window in 2016 where they began the spying process on Donald Trump. And so he's like, well, we're not doing that again. You're not starting the spying on us. So all of the background checks have been postponed on the cabinet nominees.
Has there been any organization more anti-Trump, corruptly anti-Trump than the FBI? Not the 40,000 or so rank and file honorable men and women who I will honor again right here, but the 7th floor of the DOJ, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr. Everybody knows the names now. And what they did, this FISA surveillance nonsense, everybody says the judge never should have allowed that. The Steele dossier is a French word for load of crap in this case. And it goes on and on. It went all the way to the Hillary campaign, the DNC. So can you not blame Donald Trump? And then even Chris Wray, who's in there right now, Trump put in there, but he said, I'm not really sure the president was shot. He might have been grazed. The FBI right away has to say the man was shot. Like, why are we doing this? And so I don't blame President Trump for wondering about that. I also don't blame him for wondering just how supportive and patriotic, ladies and gentlemen, and helpful in this so-called peaceful transfer of power in our great constitutional republic from the Biden people to the Trump people, how helpful they're actually going to be. All we heard about is January 6th, peaceful transfer, blah, blah, blah. You go prove it. You go prove it. Joe Biden and one Kamala Harris, president and vice president, as we sit here today, can come out today, will have a joint press conference and say, we're here to say whatever you need, we're providing it. We just hung up the phone with Chris Wray.
Without spying on you.
Without spying on you. Right. Yes, which of course they did. But you know what? The good guys won.
Kellyanne Conway.
Thank you, Will.
I got to leave it here. I really appreciate the time that you give us here on the Will Kane Show. It's always insightful and entertaining. Thank you, Kellyanne.
Thank you, Will. Take care.
Okay. All right. I got to run. I'm about to hop over onto the Tommy Lahren Show at Outkick.com, so you can follow us over there. But we'd love to see you again here tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, again, for another streaming live edition of the Will Kane Show, taking you up to Thanksgiving. I'll see you again next time.